Black coffee.
Black coffee and black guys, just the way I like it. Yeah, we can't start like that. Unbreak my heart, say you love me again. Undo that hurtful pain when you walked out the door and out of my life. Undo these tears.
Did you break up?
Sometimes I just have pain in my heart. And that's just something I gotta do.
That one line?
Yeah, it's an emotional song.
Who, Whitney Houston?
I think so. R.I.P. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast where we talk a lot of shit and it probably won't last because both of us are busy as shit and have no time. So if you want to keep watching, you're going to have to pay a dime. No more free content, people. We sold out real quick.
Just a dime?
Yeah, starting off a dime. And then if you want to watch the next episode, it's another dime on top of that one, so now it's 20 cents. Then double to 40. Ladies and gentlemen, this has got ridiculous already. Welcome to the podcast with my co-host, Matt Alaya. Matt, why don't you tell them about M80 Roller and what it does for the people who are interested.
M80 roller, also known as your foam roller. Great for athletes, great for your general population that exercises, and also very beneficial for people that sit down a lot, that don't exercise.
I think everybody sits down a lot, so this is for everyone.
That's the thing is, the big thing is everyone can benefit from the M80 roller.
Mm-hmm.
From tight muscles, to knots, to adhesions, to all that good stuff that goes in your muscles that you feel tightness, stiffness when you wake up. You have chronic pain. Usually it's caused from muscle. So give it a shot. Go to m80roller.com. I have videos on how to, explaining both beginner phases and advanced phases of foam rolling. Check it out. Give it a shot. Worst case scenario,
Give it a
you
shot.
fall in love with it.
Damn. I always like how you have this line that pulls you in and just like, and worst case scenario, you fall in love with it. You know? That was the first time we both took a drink at the same time. So we were like,
awkward.
oh shit, what do we do? No one's talking. I feel like with the podcast sometimes you feel rushed. Like you have to talk. Like you can't let
Silence.
dead air just happen. But it's normal. We're not going to pretend like this is NBC where we have breaking news tonight. Oh, no. You know?
Word just got in.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's coming through the headphone. Ladies and gentlemen, the podcast is also brought to you by EvanLopez.com. Once again, referring to myself in the third person, Evan Lopez is an individual that will help you with your music production, video production. If you want beats, if you want mixing, mastering, editing, just let me know. I can help you out. Matt, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one. I usually start off the podcast is, what's on your mind? What's going on over in Matt world?
There's a lot of stuff going on. I think everyone can relate to being busy.
Well, there's a lot of fucks out there who can't. They relate to being busy with their Netflix.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like everyone says at the end of the day that they're busy, even though they're doing something productive or not. It's sort of one of those things that I feel like at the end of the week, sometimes you're just drained, you're tired. For me, a lot of it is mental and physical.
Yeah.
Right now on my plate, I have several projects going on. One of my projects, obviously, is M80 Roller, which, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm constantly working on it. My training business, again, I take that serious, and I make sure that each client gets individualized attention, specialized attention. On top of that, right now I'm dealing with grandma's death, and helping my family out, trying to be there for them. And then on top of that, I got my own shit that I have to deal with, as far as continuously working on myself, trying to find that balance of making sure that I have work, personal life, family, all well coordinated. But at the same time, I took on sort of this photography hobby of my own, that once a week I try to venture out in Orange County, mostly towards Laguna Beach, that I want to hike around these beaches. And
did you say beaches? What? You respect women.
I hike around all these
You're the one who said it.
These beaches. Just taking pictures. Again, that's sort of my way to give back to myself, of help develop my creative side, get myself out in the open, and sort of not worry about anything that's going on in my reality life. And on top of that, I'm looking into actually volunteering. I want to start volunteering for an organization, starting to side more towards the youth, almost as a mentor. So I got a lot on my plate, and I think from time to time you get those days that you wake up and everything's a blur.
Yeah.
But once you get those gears going, I think everything falls back into place.
Do you think you can handle doing another thing? Because I feel like you're already maxed out with everything you're doing.
The way that I look at it is, I don't know till I try. So I might as well keep just trying. Something's bound to happen. Life's too short
to not volunteer. And
yeah, it's almost one of those things that, if I end up volunteering and I don't like it, or I ended up, switching to a different organization, I feel like you don't know until you try. So it's something that I've always wanted to do. So why not do it now? Why keep waiting? And I am young. I'm full of energy. I don't have an excuse.
Yeah. It's funny that, because I believe that when you're young, you need to do as much as you can. You need to work hard. But I feel like there's so many people, going back to the, Netflix and everything.
Video games.
Yeah, video games. I think a lot of people, they put so many tasks in front of them that make it seem like they're really busy. People who make extra work for them that's not actually like contributing to anything.
Yeah.
And they just are like, ugh, I'm too busy. I always thought that was weird when people would say, I'm too busy. Like, oh, I wish I could do that. I've had people say that to me about music and videos. Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I had the time to do that. And I'm like, I do this at 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning and lose 4 hours of sleep to do this, right? And people always say that kind of thing, where they're always too busy to do what they want to do. I think it was, 50 Cent said it, Arnold Schwarzenegger said it, about how you got to be really willing to not sleep. You have to be willing to give up everything just to be able to do what you want to do, because there's someone out there who's doing that,
Mm-hmm.
There was a really great motivational speaker, and I always, if you download motivational speeches, he's always in there. And it's about the guy who he wanted to become great, and he wanted to become successful. So he signed up with this motivational speaker. This is motivational speaker inception, because I'm talking about a motivational talker talking about a motivational talker.
Really?
So this mentor on success told this guy, he says, meet me at the beach tomorrow morning. I'm sure maybe you've heard this. And he says, okay. He meets him on the morning, and he says, swim out. So they start swimming out through the waves. Keep going till you can't stand. And then they're out far in the ocean, past the waves. The guy starts pushing him under, and
Really?
holding him under the water. And the guy's fighting, and like, what are you doing? You're crazy. And he's like, do you want to be successful? And he's holding him underwater, and just holding him down. And he says, you have to get to the point. He finally lets him go. He says, you have to get to the point where you want to be as successful as much as you want to breathe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep.
That's intense. You probably, I don't know. I feel like that really happened, but it also might have been a guy telling a story.
Just to
kind of get a point across. Because I feel like if you did that in reality, and the guy wasn't like, oh, that's deep. There's a lot of people who just be like, fucking psycho, just try to kill me. The guy be arrested on the spot.
Yeah.
And some guy be like, I got it on my camera. But yeah, I always like that thinking that if you want, you have to want to be successful as much as you want to breathe. Because a lot of people, do you want to be successful or do you want to relax and just, eat food and just bullshit,
Yeah, no. I guess the one that I always gravitate towards, because I haven't really heard of anything else, is the, being hungry. If you're hungry, you have to go either eat or you starve to death.
You hunt.
But I like what you just said. It's almost like you fight for your life, because naturally that's what we do. So why wouldn't you fight for what you believe in?
Yeah.
So if you have a passion, why not treat it as your life, in the sense that, what if I die tomorrow? Do I want to die trying something and doing something that I believe in or that I love? Or do I want to die knowing that I was complacent?
I heard this really cool thing on a podcast I was listening to this week. And it was on Ari Shaffir's Skeptic Tank, a great podcast. It's a comedian who a lot of people call him, the most improved stand-up. One of the people that just got so good to where he's at from working so hard and not giving up. And there's this episode where he's talking about his entire growth, everything he's doing, from just starting out as an open micer to where, he just is going and trying to getting spots. Working at the Comedy Store, which is a famous place where a lot of legendary comedians start doing their stand-up. And just like how hard he really had to work. And, and he talked about faith. And he was saying, like believing in what you want to do, believing in it 100%, having faith in what you want to do is going to make you work that much harder. But it was weird because he talked about faith, and he said, religion isn't faith. He says, for the most part, a lot of people who, in America, no matter where you're from, usually if you're a very devoted Jewish person, if you're a very devoted Christian person, Muslim, whatever, just because your parents were Muslim. It's because your parents were that religion. True faith is you walking away from that,
And finding your own.
And finding your own and believing in that, That's real faith, is when it's something that is rejected by other people and you do it on your own. You weren't born into it. And it's weird. I'm not wrapping it up as well as he did on this, but the whole gist was that real faith is having belief in something that doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem possible, because that's faith. Because there's no proof that it's going to happen. There's no proof that it's happened before. And it becomes faith. And when you start looking at religion and everything in that sense, it becomes historical and based off evidence and what was written. Faith is really not having a clue,
No, I think that's interesting, because right now, what popped up to mind is, so you have the people that follow,
mm-hmm.
and you have the people that break away and do their own thing. So basically what you just said, I immediately think of, I'm that type of person that likes to break the chains and try something new, try a new routine, try a new habit, try a new lifestyle.
Yeah.
Instead of following. And I guess going back to religion, I grew up in a Catholic household, and to tell you the truth, I broke away from it just because it just wasn't me.
The priest molesting and everything like that.
Going back to having faith, guess what? I didn't have an ounce of faith in this whole Catholic world.
Yeah.
So I'm the type of person that if I'm not into it, or if I don't have any motivation to do something, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do something else. So I took it into my own hands is, why not be a good person? Why not be a good citizen in society? Why not try to produce good? Why don't you give back to your society? Why don't you try to make something out of nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what does religion teach you?
Yeah.
Good moral values, good ethics, good things to improve upon. So with what you just said, I picture the person that wants to go out and do their own thing and find their own faith is you have to get lost.
Yeah.
So it's almost like here's the herd of sheep, and then you have that one sheep that strays away, and everyone's going, you shouldn't go, and they're
That's
like,
bad.
you shouldn't go. You don't know what's out there. Yeah. Isn't it scary? What if there's a big bad wolf that's going to eat you up? And then the little sheep goes, why not go out there? Yeah. Why not see what's out there?
That's a very optimistic sheep impression.
You know? I view it as, yes, you will be lost, but you're not scared because you know there's something bigger and better out there. And I think that I find myself sort of doing that is you sort of step out into the open, and yeah, you'll be a little bit scared, but as long as you have faith in yourself and what you stand for and how you use the tools that you have you've gathered throughout your years, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I like the point that you made about you have to get lost. There's some quote out there about how you have to get lost to really find yourself. It's like a little play on words, but it's so true because we talked about religion on a different podcast about how I got really into the Bible and everything. It really was. I got isolated from everybody I knew, living in Puerto Rico. I was pretty much by myself. For the first 9 months or something, I lived with my sister, and then she moved back to the States, because I had another year and a half of school left. So I kind of went into that, the noise kind of shuts off, and you start thinking a lot, and you start, you're isolated from everybody you really grew up with. So you just start looking into different things. You start thinking more. And I remember that was why I got into, reading about Christianity, reading about science, reading about history, because I started just wanting answers. And I think when you have to get lost to really figure out what you want to do, just like, and when you say you have to get lost, we don't mean you have to shut your phone off, go into the middle of nowhere, and just walk around.
Correct.
You have to be willing to fail. You have to try new things, basically go into uncharted territories to kind of find what works for you and what you can have faith with. And it's funny because the whole idea of religion, and I'm sitting here talking about religion like I fucking know. There's so much I'm wrong on, and probably wrong when it comes to religion. But everything's based off of, do not lean on your own understandings, for I am your God. Trust in me and have faith in me. And don't look out there. What are you looking at, baby? Eye contact. That's really what religion is like. It's like a guy who doesn't want his girlfriend to wear a low-cut shirt. And look, baby, you don't talk to the fucking waiter. You talk to me. I'm a very jealous boyfriend. Don't look at other guys. Don't even look over there. You look at me. Do you want me to smite you? It's really like that. And it's weird because it's like, it's such a contradiction. And what it comes down to is whether there's a God, whether there's a creator in that sense. I think we're not even going to be able to fathom it, of what really is out there and what existence is, because we're retarded. We're a retarded species that we look back on things we said before and we're like, oh, no, we're completely wrong. Oh, the world is not flat.
Yeah.
There's not monsters, and you're not going to fall off the edge. We have such a stupid logic of like the surface, because we picture heaven, and it's like we picture little wings and halos and these huge pearly gates and clouds and everything. If there's anything, it's probably going to be, we're not even going to look like us. We're not going to be wearing wavy robes and nice combed beards and everything like that. It's probably going to be some shit with energy where we're just shooting through the universe and we're just in this weird gas form, and it's just this ultraviolet rays and some shit, and we're just going throughout the universe. We don't have comprehension of like what we are, or everything. And I sound like a retard right now. I should have like a foil helmet on, like trying to stop the aliens.
I've never thought of that like that.
Well,
That's pretty deep.
I think a lot of times we assume things, just like, and I'll be honest, people who write off that there's no religion, there's no God, are retarded. When people are like, I believe in science, science has been proven wrong so much. Yeah. But I do believe there's a lot of manipulation with the Bible and everything. And I don't argue that atheists are wrong. I don't argue that they're right. I don't argue that Christians are wrong or right, or any other religion, because none of us have gone to the other side, found out what's up, came back.
Yeah.
So everything's assumptions of what happens. And if there was never dinosaur bones, but someone tried to explain to you that dinosaurs existed, and they drew you a perfect picture of what an actual dinosaur is, we would never believe it. I think the dinosaurs ruled the earth for 300 million years. There was dinosaurs. Can you even fathom that? How long the humans have been in existence?
Yeah.
And then how long dinosaurs just fucking ruled shit. We're not even a blip in the amount of time. I remember in a college biology class, and it was the one thing that stood out for me in any class, was she took a huge thing of it was like a long like rope tape, but a string with little cards throughout the whole thing, and she went through the entire existence of the earth, and it was about a 75-yard rope. And so she would have one student hold it, and we made a whole circle around the entire class.
Really?
And then it had everything, dates, so-and-so, the dinosaurs were born, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so walked out of the ocean, so-and-so, like it was a person. This creature walked out of the ocean, developed this, blah, blah. Bacteria, blue. I'm like fumbling over everything right now. There's like everything that has been going on with
like
the world.
Evolution?
Yeah, and not so much evolution, but I guess so, how everything has just came into existence, and how the world has became what it is now. And when she got through this 75-yard rope, the last 3 inches, she says, this is how long humans have been on Earth. And it was this little part like this.
Out of 75 feet?
75 yards. A whole thing.
Wow.
Of how long. And that really stowed me and went, holy shit. We try to act like
we dominate.
Yeah, like this is our world. We know everything about it. There's so much stuff that points to old civilizations that we just never have looked into. And there's creatures you see. Sometimes there's, you see a show on, whether it's like Planet Earth or one of those shows, they show you a creature that lives on the bottom of the ocean. Had they never seen it and people just talked about it, you'd have went, there's no way that exists. All that kind of stuff doesn't live. But just like dinosaurs, if there was never evidence of dinosaurs and someone tried telling you that based off, if they didn't have the fossils, all they had was, some kind of like leftover DNA, and they were like, this is some kind of reptile, and according to the DNA strand or whatever, it looks like it was about 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, there was lizards that were 30 feet tall. You would never believe it.
Yeah.
But since we have the evidence, it's just normal. I sound like a retard to most people talking about dinosaurs, but it's true. We would never have believed that. So it's just our thinking that we're so shallow-minded in what we believe is real and what can happen that we can't fathom that there's something so magical, because it's scary,
I think that ties into, you wrapped it up in a nutshell, that's what humans think is that we are very limited on our capacity to think.
Yeah.
Instead of reaching out into the open and grabbing all this potential, all we do is we hang on to what we know and what we can physically see. And I think that that's what separates the followers from the doers, is that the doers are not afraid, again, to get lost off the path and explore, to really get down and dirty and figure out why certain things are that way. Or going back to, I posted on my Instagram, I think last week, a quote, what's this guy, Thomas Edison?
Oh, yeah.
About failing, 10,000 times is a way that you've learned all the positives of those negatives. So going back to it is, if you're willing to look for failure and you're willing to accept failure, you're going to tap into something.
Yeah.
And I think that most humans, we just go around wanting to hear the truth and wanting to stick with the truth because we're afraid of not knowing.
It's not even that we want to stick with the truth. It's that we want to stick with our truth. We want to stick with what makes us okay with our everyday lives, which makes us okay with how we're living, and it makes us feel safe, because a lot of times our ego is so wrapped up in ourselves that we can't fathom that we're so insignificant at an individual level, that you start talking to people and it's scary. Sometimes it sounds so hippie, and we're having a weird hippie podcast right now, and that's what's wrong, is that people who are listening to this are going, what kind of hippie bullshit is this, blah blah blah. It's not hippie bullshit. It's actually thinking about what is really going on. And people's egos are so tied in that there's times when you look at the stars and you look at everything and you're just staring off. And if you watch, there's a show, The Cosmos, about how we might be a speck in a speck inside of another speck of this infinite, the cosmos, infinite universes, galaxy. There's the multiverse theory, which is that every single variation of yourself exists in a different universe.
Wow.
That there's a Matalaya.com that is a rapper, and then there's an Evan Lopez and M90roller.com where Evan Lopez sells, and they have a podcast also. So that kind of blows my mind, that the universe is infinite, and that in that theory, the multiverse, there's everything you can think of has happened in a different variation because it's infinite. That's the infinite theory. And it's crazy when you look up at the stars and you feel so insignificant that it's almost scary, because you're like, holy shit, I could, in the amount of time, in the real picture, not with our heads down looking at our own culture, what's going on, and our friends and gossip, we're a blip in what is reality in the big picture. And I think that's scary for people, because they rely on being part of God's plan, being, I'm doing this, and I always hate when people have that cop out and be okay. They find comfort in, this is all part of God's plan. I'm part of God's plan. I know I'm meant to find somebody to do this, because it's putting significance on their life. And it's scary as shit to say, no, I'm in uncharted waters. Reality is, I'm just a person walking around that I could get hit by a car tomorrow. I could choke on a chicken bone tonight and die. I could have a sudden heart attack out of nowhere. There's young people who have heart attacks too. You never know. And you can't justify with just being part of God's plan. I think the idea is to really try to figure out what's going on. And I don't think in our lifetime we're never going to figure out what is reality in the world, what is the universe, everything. Might get close, but it's just the building blocks of pushing the next generation to do it.
I get excited talking about these types of things, because that's when I know that my journey in life is so complex that by the time I die, I know that I'll never figure out anything as far as like the ultimate truth. But what I've learned about myself is I love a challenge. I love to figure out problems and try to come up with solutions. So I feel like my whole journey in life is literally testing the waters and constantly trying to get an answer from something. And I don't know. Like, I'm not scared to not know what the truth is. I'm not scared of, the possibilities of this higher power being out there. I'm not scared of not traveling on my own and having something to hang on to.
You're a caveman. You're a smart caveman, because there was that caveman back in the day who wasn't scared to go out and be like, you know what, me no like food here in this mountain. Me go find other food, And it's that kind of thing. I'm sure there was superstition back when, Neanderthals and everything, when there was different variations. There's all this like talk about with evolution, is that they talk about how, well, if we came from monkeys, then why aren't monkeys changing anymore? There's a documentary, I think it's Darwin's Finches, but it could be a completely different documentary. Talks about how humans and Neanderthals and monkeys, everything lived at the same time. Neanderthals supposedly hunted humans. They were like, they were going after them. They were more aggressive, that kind of thing. But they got X'd out because of the cold. I forgot there was a huge ice thing. I sound like a retard talking about this.
Ice Age?
Yeah. And I don't know if it was the Ice Age, actually, because humans survived. But they talk about how, because of genes, and it's just the way that wolves turned into dogs, different genes that worked for this world that, would help you accommodate. The ones who wanted to explore and go out and do new things and become better ended up surviving, and then finding a girl who did that, and then they had a kid, and then their kid came out and wanted to explore and survive, and then they had another one who didn't, and that little shit got eaten by a bear because it hung out too long eating berries and got poisoned and passed out and got eaten. But that other one met another family kid that wanted to explore even more than the parents did, and was even stronger and faster, and now they got together and they had a kid. And the cycle went on like that, of people who want to keep moving forward. Have you ever heard how wolves became dogs? It all started because the travelers, I want to say it was well before Christopher Columbus, because they already had dogs at that time. But it was through the Indians, one of the travels, that these wolves were coming around the campfire. And the wolves that came closer, that didn't have the gene that made them deathly afraid of humans, they got fed and they got closer. So over time, whether it was 100 years or whatever, the wolves that developed the gene to not be afraid of humans survived and got closer to humans, while the ones that had the fear of man kept off in the forest and became, just wolves. They stayed wolves. But through genes and genetic traits, the wolves that got close to people, they became actual pets, because they started seeing that if I go near these people, I get food. So then their offspring were born with that gene that if they got close to the people, they would get food. But then, it developed even more and more and got stronger, and that became their food source, was coming to these people. Then they got taken as pets, and the more aggressive ones that would lash out every now and then, they got killed, if they were showed they were bad pets. But just by natural selection, the ones that didn't get aggressive or bite their owners, they started having more, puppies and breeding, because they were shown to be good dogs. They were actual pets. They didn't get killed before they could breed. And then those offsprings that were, good pets and didn't bite back became more playful. They started showing the traits of being playful and everything, because they saw they would get food. Those even got picked more over just the ones that were safe. So now, people were like, oh, that one's too big though, I want a smaller one. They would find a smaller one, breed it with another smaller one. And then that's how slowly, over years and years and years, they developed into different breeds, where now you even got to a freaking Chihuahua. But if they test dogs, everything dates back to a wolf. And, it's from that exact timeline of how dogs came to be from wild wolves that had the trait to not be afraid of man.
No, it makes sense, because I don't think that all of a sudden you come across a little poodle. You know what I mean? Because then that poodle, how would it survive?
Yeah, no. Yeah, and
it's humans that slowly sort of helped adapt into the more docile pet.
Yeah, and it became the trade-off that dogs gave up their survival skills to actually develop manipulative skills to make people like them. Just like you go to the pound, you see the dogs just wagging the tail, jumping on thing like, they know what they're doing. They know that's what you like.
Yeah.
So they act like that. They be playful. They run around. And it's all through natural selection of what types of traits survived that, have made it to the point where it's at. And it's crazy that gene selection has become so big that now you have, look at pit bulls and even German shepherds. There's champion bloodlines that come into play. And it's crazy because it's even like that with people. If you think about it, there were so many, a lot of it's still based off that. We just try to pretend like it's not. Like, people are into people like, oh, look at him, he's so well built, or he's so handsome, or oh, he's such a strong worker. It's all just monkey shit. We're still just looking at the hierarchy of needs of what they can provide, to the shelter, Just like if now, even in the modern world, if all of a sudden a girl like cleans something, she cleans your room, she cooks you a meal or something, you're like, like you feel it, you feel that inside, you're like, yeah, like, and people are going to say I'm misogynist or whatever. It really is. And we still, just like women look to a strong man, like when a man fixes a sink or something, the woman's like, yeah, he just went out and did that and blah, blah, blah. Or, he chops wood in the back.
Took care of me.
Yeah, it's still a lot like that. It's more crazy with animals. But, I used to, people don't know, shout out to pigeons. I used to fly pigeons. My dad came from Brooklyn. So when he came over, he bought all his pigeons. And that's kind of an East Coast thing of flying pigeons. So I really got into that. And, there's different genetic traits that certain pigeons had. What was a good roller, which means that while it's flying, it does tricks where it actually rolls down. And it was just cool. And there's homing pigeons, which are the ones that you can let them go and they'll fly back home even if it's like 90 miles away.
Really?
I had my grandpa used to live in Monrovia, Arcadia, and he would give me pigeons. He was into it, and he would give me pigeons. And the thing with pigeons is you have to keep them in the cage when you first get them for about 2 weeks so they know that that's their home. They get homed in on that. But I let these pigeons out a little too early because I really wanted to fly them and just see what they did. I was a weird kid. And one of the pigeons flew back to my grandpa's.
Really? From here?
From here, over 90 miles to Monrovia.
Really?
And it was funny because he set me up. He was like, he calls me, hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh, hey, Grandpa. And he's just like, yeah, I was just seeing how you doing. I was like, oh, I'm doing good. How are the pigeons? Oh, they're good. You didn't let them out, have you? And he already knew. Yeah. He had the pigeon right there. And I was a little jackass, and I was like, oh, well,
they're still in there.
No, I think I said, oh, the door opened, but no, they're here. And then he was just like, oh, yeah, well, it's weird. It must be a twin because I got a pigeon here. And I was like, Grandpa, I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's just
That's
like
impressive, though.
There's ones that go across the country.
Really?
Yeah, when I really got into it, because there's someone I knew that was making money off racing pigeons. And I was like 14. You guys got to excuse me. I was a homeschool kid. There was websites geared towards these champion pigeons, these bloodlines.
Yeah.
So people were selling certain pigeons for hundreds of dollars. And they had these crazy name like, I don't know, like Eagle Flight or Turbo or something. Oh, this is Turbo's son. There was like Turbo the Third. And it was all these crazy pigeons that had the bloodline of the natural selection to be so good at racing, plus the homing skills of being able to pinpoint where they lived and go back there. It's crazy, you know?
The first thing that comes to mind is, how do you even know where you're going? Like, is it a smell? Is it a sight?
I think just like we have kind of a sixth sense when it comes to certain things, I think that's why those pigeons are so good, because, and that might be an interesting thing. I don't know if homing of pigeons originated from pigeons who just got really good at that thing in that natural selection. Just, you know, those certain pigeons that could fly farther to get food, survived, and could fly home. You know, if it was that kind of situation, which I'm sure it was, it makes sense. Or if it was just a natural different breed that started from the beginning. It's a different species. Well, not a different species, but a different breed altogether than a normal pigeon. You see it in dogs. I was talking to my brother's father-in-law, and he had, I believe it was a golden retriever, and it was a pure bloodline. He got it pure breed from a farm, blah, blah, blah. And he would take it to his construction site, and he would sit it down there. And every time, you know, they were eating lunch and the dog would hang out with them, and it was just really trained, good dog from the start. And every time someone would shoot, you know, the 22, you know when you shoot it into the concrete, 22 gun, boom, super loud. It's a 22 rifle. The dog would look up and would look around, and one of the friends, you know, coworkers was like, "Hey, look at that! You see that?" And he was like, "Oh, what? You heard the loud noise?" He's like, "Nah, look again." They shot it. Boom! Dog looking up, looking around. That dog had never been trained to do that. But golden retrievers, they're bird dogs. And when they hear, you know, this dog, because it was a purebred, you know, dog, they're bred to retrieve birds after the hunters shoot them. So just hearing that sound without ever hearing it or being trained to do that, from its natural instincts, it heard a loud noise and automatically knew it was supposed to be looking for a bird, even though it had never experienced that once in its life. So that's how powerful natural selection can be.
That reminds me of, the Australian Shepherd dogs, the little ones. I have a client that has 2 of them, and the funniest thing is, you know, these particular dogs were never exposed to what their genes were made to do, which were to, you know, gather sheep or do what their parents did, I guess.
Yeah.
But anytime family kids were over the backyard playing around, the dog would circle, and then slowly start nip at the heels and sort of push them to different parts of the backyard. And I think it's the same thing. It's like, why? You didn't even teach it that. It's never been in a situation that it's been in a large field with sheep or any other type of animals to herd. Yet, when these kids are around, it wants to make sure that it's going certain places. So, it is, I think, amazing how...
And we just overlook that. That's magic.
It is, because it's sort of embedded in their brain. Going back to the whole ape, primate, sort of deep embedded roots of who we are start coming out.
It's crazy because you think about that with people. There's good and bad traits. For some reason, bad traits, people who have bad traits, low income, and not saying that low income are bad traits, they like the breed. You ever notice that? It's always, they like the breed. They're like gerbils. But it always seems like people who want to get on welfare and milk the system, they use kids. I remember talking to this girl in Puerto Rico. She was talking about how she was trying to have her 4th kid because she would get a bigger bonus from the government. And there's a big community of that in Puerto Rico where they would be all about just getting money from the government because they're having kids. So it's always like that. And it's going back to what I'm trying to say is that there's natural selection in people. And it's crazy if we actually study the traits that we have individually. I know there's a lot of mannerisms I probably get from my dad just from seeing him for so many years. But there's a lot of genetic traits that I have that my family tree has. Like my uncles and relatives, I hear stories about how they were and everything. I'm like, oh, that's probably why I do this, you know? There's probably weird stuff. Just like it sucks is that, you know, a lot of people have addictive personalities just from handed down. You know, there's a lot of people where the dad was an alcoholic and the daughter automatically has that trait of, you know, oh, my dad was an alcoholic, which I think you can kind of battle and try to get in control of it. But it's crazy that there's also that in people that we don't really acknowledge.
No, I think that's why we still have... I feel like we have so much knowledge, research, technology, yet we still can't pinpoint a lot of the inherited genes or DNA that we get from our own family that explain certain things on why we do the things we do.
I think we just don't take the time. You know, I really don't think. This is one of the first times I've really stopped and thought about it. About, what these traits, you know? We're just so busy and we don't take the time to try to develop like that. It's funny because a lot of times what ends up happening is you see a breakdown. It's usually mid-20s to early 20s. And even later on in life, it hits people at different times. The need to find themselves. They have a breakdown and they just feel like they need to figure out who they are and take time to develop themselves. You hear that all the time, especially after a relationship. Is one of the first times people will be like, I just want to take some time on me and figure out what I want to do, you know? And they'll go travel, they'll go do some crazy shit. But it seems at one point in our lives, we try to figure it out. We want to take the reins and kind of try to figure out who we are. And it sucks that it has to be usually a bad thing that leads us to that point of trying to find ourselves. Because usually we don't just one day go, I want to find myself. I want to figure out who I am. Because you sound silly, you know? If I just one day walked up to you and I was just like, Evan, how you doing? I'm doing good. I decided I'm going to go find myself out of nowhere. I just said it. Might make sense to you because you're like, all right, cool, whatever, do you think? But a lot of people, that sounds silly, you know?
It's funny that you mention that because I do think that, bad creates something in us to search deep down inside, and maybe that goes back to something that happened you didn't have any control over, so it sort of rocks you for a little bit because you thought you had control, and then now you want to get control of your own life so that you can have that peace of mind to move forward. But going back to what you were just saying is, like, I've been in some relationships with girls that have been great, you know, potential, like, oh, she's will be a good mom, she'll be a good wife, this and that. And for some reason I feel bad, but I've had to, like, go, I think there's bigger and better things out there. And I think that I'm a perfect example that maybe I don't want to settle. Yeah. And I want to keep searching for bigger and better things, and maybe it is dumb for me to, you know, do that with potential girls that have crossed my path. But at the end of the day, I'm not the person to settle, because if I were to settle, I think that it would hang over my head as regret, because if that little piece of me wants to venture out and seek the uncharted waters and seek this path that might not be labeled or known to man, I want to go search it. I want to go see it with my own eyes. So I think, too, it goes back to different maturity levels in everybody. I view myself as not being mature, and I think that mature goes in a lot of different directions.
You're pretty mature, man.
Well, that's the thing, is I think the norm of mature is being this person that is knowledgeable or secure, confident, this and that. But the way that I view maturity is, are you willing to settle? You know, as far as I view maturity, okay, I know everything I need to know. I'm going to settle down and I'm fine with life the way it is. I don't find myself ready to settle down. And when I say settle, I don't even mean with a girl or anything. I have so many projects going on. I want to try to conquer. I want to try to move mountains that I can't sit still.
I think that goes all back to the genetic traits, natural selection. We're built, it's in our DNA to want to explore, find new things, and do different things. And sometimes I think, we talked about this last night a little bit about people settling. I think monogamous relationships sometimes isn't the way humans are built. There's a book called Sex at Dawn, and there's actually, we're getting all weird and science and health related, but there's a fluid in the vagina. I felt so weird saying vagina. In the vagina. That is actually meant to pick through semen, different genes, and pick out stronger ones and stuff like that. And the way guys' members are shaped is like a plunger to get other people's semen out. So we're built for the natural selection of being, the strongest shall survive and all that sort of thing. So sometimes I think the feeling is you have to make sure, and I'm fine with people who want to be in a monogamous relationship. I think they're healthy. I think they work for some people. They don't work at all for other people. Some people are just meant to be on their own and live life like that, and eventually maybe find someone. But a lot of people settle, and it's not so much that you're just settling by getting in a relationship. You're settling by knowing that there's something better out there, but you're still too comfortable. You don't want to rip the scab off of a bad relationship and start over again. So many people think they've invested too much time into one relationship where it's going to be too hard to start over, and they'd rather go through life dormant and stagnant like a zombie, going through the emotions and not loving the person they're with anymore, or just staying together for the kids and all these bad decisions. It's luck that we didn't end up, I think when you're young, you're from the age of 15 to 21, it is luck that you didn't get so psycho over unbalanced with the girl in a relationship to where you got her pregnant because you didn't want to lose her. There's always that point when you're real young and you don't know how to control how you love someone, where you can go over the deep end and just get so attached to them and not want to lose them, and it gets so unhealthy that you get them pregnant. And then you wake up years later when you're 25 and you're like, I was never meant to be with that person, but we got a kid together, so now we're going to have to parent this kid. Now, you guys might not be together, but now it's all this fucking crazy drama. Some other person's calling they're calling him daddy. All this crazy different shit that you could have avoided by just not getting so unbalanced and so unhealthy into a relationship like that. So I think that it's important to always make sure you're focused on yourself first and having your eyes on becoming the best version of yourself and exploring different things, trying new things, and not settling with the person you're with, because I think if you're settling for too long, it becomes too hard to pull out of it into, you're with someone for 7 years, but there's kind of that thing in the back of the head, and, you're feeling like it, but then everybody's kind of telling you, get married, it'll feel better. I always think that's the most ridiculous thing. Girls always think and I'm sure there's guys too, always think the answer to a problem is to get deeper in. They always think if you're just dating and you're having problems, well, maybe if we were boyfriend and girlfriend, it
would fix itself.
It would be better. We wouldn't fight so much, and most of our fights are about that. No, that's just a detail. Once you're in a relationship, well, we wouldn't be having this problem and all these issues if we just lived together, And then we wouldn't have these problems if we had a kid. They think a kid's gonna fix the problem, and then they think marriage. We've just been fighting so much, and maybe if we just get married, like it's gonna be a different thing. They always think marriage is the finish line when really that's the fucking beginning of fucking problems. I sound so sinister right now, but it's true. There's so many people that think that a wedding is the goal. That's the finish line. We did it because they think now we got engaged, we got married, and they lived happily ever after. No, that's just the beginning. Now you're dealing with all these different problems. So I always think it's good for people to move in together before they get married and do all that and really get to know someone. There was a quote, a picture that had Will Ferrell on it. It says, before you get married to someone, you should have to live with them 6 months with a slow internet connection. And then you'll really get to see who someone is when they have a slow internet connection. It's so true, because that's me. I'll throw some shit across the room. My internet's not working. Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I look up to people that are so independent that they don't rely on others. I, for a fact, know that I'm not that independent, even though I am, to a certain degree, independent. I still have to lean on someone. I always lean on my parents. I lean on my friends. As far as a girl, I'm not that type of person that completely, leans on a girl and finds myself wanting to be attached to a girl to be able to accomplish certain things in my life. Because at the end of the day, I don't like to settle. I don't want to settle because that's not me.
Yeah.
I think certain people in life are fine settling. Once they find that person, they're balanced and that works for them. And to tell you the truth, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. But it just doesn't work for me. Yeah. Settling just does not work for me. So I'm always trying to ask questions. I'm always trying to dig up certain things to try to spark up deeper thoughts, because I think life is so complex, yet everyone wants to think that everything going back to religion is that there's always these answers, there's always these everything is just based on what everyone says, but I don't think it's true.
Well, I think it's scary if you get to the reality of it, is that we're on a rock spinning through the universe at thousands of miles per hour. How fast the world's spinning? We're just on a rock in the middle of, we don't know what the fuck's out there. It's pretty scary. And going back to what you said about, it's good to have support systems. I like that. I think you have to have support, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. But I think when it comes to relationship, you have to find a friend in that person and have that support. But you also can't get unbalanced to the point where you can't live without someone. I always, and it sounds like I'm a cynical about love, which I'm not. I love love. And I think you have to be healthy with love. Everybody likes the movies where the guy's chasing the car. No, I love you. Like he can't live without her, because that's a fantasy to just have someone so into you where, the guy's, the girl's walking out. He says, stop. I can't breathe without you. It hurts when I'm away from you. All I think about is being in your arms. In reality, girls say they want that. The Notebook, I think the movie was.
Yeah.
I act like I didn't watch it. The book of notes. They act like they want that. Someone who's just so head over heels that they write them letters every day, and all they do is stare at them. 2 weeks into that shit, every girl is gonna be tired of that. They're gonna get sick of some guy who is sitting on the bed going, please don't be gone too long. I just can't wait to hold you. 2 weeks in, every girl's going to be sick of that guy that they fantasize in the movie. All the girls want their cake and want to eat it too. They want the guy, they want that fantasy, but then they also want someone who's independent and isn't needy. Because real quick, those movies, when you think about them in reality, they turn from this cute fantasy, blah, 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 to, no, they're both needy and unhealthy as fuck,
What are your thoughts with, I guess going that path is, what are your thoughts when it comes into what makes a relationship successful? Like looking back at your personal
cheating. Total joke. I mean, it probably can't hurt.
So looking back from your experiences and what you've heard from other people's experiences, how would you recommend our viewers as to, taking the steps to trying to achieve a successful relationship, which again, you can't manipulate a successful relationship, but to a certain degree, what are steps that you would take to make sure that things are in good perspective?
Doing your own stuff. I think you need balance. You need to balance that relationship just like it's anything else. Anything of one thing, too much of one thing is going to be unhealthy. And that can be too much ice cream. That can be too much sex. That can be too much sleep. Too much sleep can kill you. Did you know that? If you're getting like 12 hours of sleep a night, it can kill you. It can cause heart problems after a while. So too much of anything.
I can't even fathom going to bed for 12 hours a day.
I'd be scared. I would think I woke up from a coma.
You'd be depressed.
Yeah. There was, when I first graduated nursing school, I came home and for some reason, all I could do was sleep for like a week. I was sleeping like 12 hours a day.
Really?
And I was depressed. For some reason, I would sleep that much and wake up. And even though I slept an insane amount of hours, I felt horrible. Like I was just like, just droopy all day. But without getting sidetracked, I think too much of anything, of one thing, is bad. And I think you can be in love with someone, you can care for them, and everybody wants that storybook love. But what you really want is someone who's going to push you to be the best you're going to be. Make sure they're not adding drama to your life. If I'm in a relationship, the last thing I want to do is waste anybody else's energy. And this is me talking now through experience, because the Evan from years ago was a lot different. Evan from years ago would be bored, not like something that someone did and, nitpick it, get in an argument about it, be jealous about it, and get into these fights because, you start attributing, this passion, this love, this is what makes, it's electrifying, the fights. A lot of people just like that because they're bored. They want that energy, that, no, I hate you. Baby, no, come back. Please don't go. They want someone to chase them out of the house because you're bored and you want some entertainment or whatever in some weird way. But I think I want to be with someone, and the key to being in a successful relationship is being balanced enough to make sure, check your own ego. If someone can't hang out with you, if they're too busy, always, never give them that bullshit of, well, you never have time for me. Why don't you have time for me? You need to know what you're getting into, and it all depends on what kind of person you're going to be with. Are you going to a relationship with someone who doesn't already have a lot of time? I never want, guess what I'm trying to say is I never want to take anything away from what someone's trying to do. If they're trying to, for an example, and a lack of a better metaphor, build a mountain. They want to build a mountain. I don't want to take any dirt away from that. I want to add a couple trees, maybe give them the energy to be able to work longer on the mountain, make them feel better, make the strenuous stuff go by easier. So if someone has goals and they want to accomplish them, I think a great person to be with is someone who's not only going to support your goals, but not allow you to make excuses for yourself not making them, which is actually what you need. You need someone who's going to push you to be the best version of yourself. I don't want to be with someone who, if I was having a hard night with music, or if I just got complaining and everything, I don't want someone who's like, it's okay. Well, it's okay what you're doing. You don't have to do that then. No, I want someone to be like, look, this is what you're passionate about. This is what you want to do. Take a break, but then get back to it. Don't let this beat you. You're not, this isn't the person I'm with. I want to be that kind of person who is supportive and helps someone accomplish what they want to do. But at the same time, I'm so focused on what I'm trying to do right now that I can only be with someone who's going to understand that I have to be selfish. And I think that for what I'm trying to do with music, with videos, with everything, with how I want my life, I want to contribute to the world. I want to try to make a name for myself, be knowledgeable, and help people. And when you're doing something like that, you have to make sacrifices, and you have to give up your own personal time. And it sucks, but if I'm going to be with someone, they're going to have to know that I'm going to be selfish. So just like someone will have to be with me, if I'm going to be with someone too, and they have goals, I have to understand what those goals are, and I have to try to help them with them. And I have to be understanding and check my ego and deal with my own drama or baggage that I might have, just so I know that I'm not interfering with them.
So here's another question. So
that questions. I'm on the Matt Elias show getting interviewed right now.
That was great. So now let's take it to the other side. Is how would you recommend someone looking for a companion, looking for a relationship? How should that other person, should they have certain characteristics or personality traits? Should they be as focused as you are? Should they be more of a shadow of who you are? Because I think that it takes two to tango. So you as yourself, you're this one person, and obviously this other person goes into the relationship trying to adapt to this whole thing, and like you said, provide some balance in your life, so that if you find yourself getting low or weak, they can help build you up and remind you of what you're trying to do with your life. How should this other person be?
I always hated the quote when people would talk. They post pictures of old people saying, back in my day when something was broke, we fixed it, talking about a relationship. Because they would say, oh, how did you guys stay married for 60 years? When something was broke, we fixed it. We didn't give up. That can't be applied across the board, because there's going to be people who have goals and they get in a relationship. Someone was pretending they weren't crazy for so long, all of a sudden is showing signs of being crazy. You can't fix crazy, at least in some senses. If it's real crazy, they're a selfish person. There's certain traits that people are going to always have, and you have to cut them out. So I think that in certain situations, if you're in a relationship with someone who isn't contributing and helping you, you have to cut them out. You just have to make that sacrifice when you see that it can't be fixed. But I think to be the person that you're going to be with, I think it's different there's a different variable for each person, because there's groups of people who are power couples where they're both lions. Shout out to Dos Leos. They're both out there trying to hunt, and they just kind of complement each other because they're both driven and they're working off each other's energy, like Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're just ending a tour together, and they're an example of a power couple that's kind of doing it. They're both driven, they're both on the top of their game, and they're feeding off each other's energy. Obama and his wife. Don't agree with the politics, but they're another power couple. She compliments him. But in that one, it's a little different than Beyonce and Jay-Z, because she's backing him. She's his shadow, and she's doing her own things, but she knows her job is the first lady. She has to support him in his decisions and everything like that. So there's an example of that. And it all is based off the person who is supporting the person. Like for me, example, I have to be with someone who's going to be supportive, isn't going to be causing drama, and, is going to have to deal with me when I'm stressed out and, feeling like shit and worn out. And it's going to have to be understanding that I need to sleep, I need to relax, I can't hang out, I can't go do this. It sucks, but that's just the way it is. So I think it's just all different. It just all varies based on what kind of people they are. If there's the incidences where you're going to have to be a power couple based off personalities, or there's going to be where one's going to support the other, and then there's going to be The ones where you guys are just both fucking psycho together and you can't be together, you know? I think it all just matters on individuals and how you work together.
Do you think that time is something that you go into a relationship going, okay, you know, in 2 years, we're going to figure out if this is going to be healthy or not healthy?
I don't think it's based off of time. I think every situation is different, because maybe there's people you date that when you guys dated at 16, it was horrible, it was unhealthy, or even 18. But if you guys had started dating when you were both 27, you could be different people and it could have worked together. But you would have never got there by dating and holding out until you reached 27, because you both didn't get those experiences that brought you to be able to be healthy together. So I think there's no set time, because maybe it was 2 years for these people that it worked out. Maybe it was 6 months they got over that bullshit and they were able to work together. Or maybe it was 5 years. But you never know. But I think that there's so many fish in the sea that you don't have 5 years in a bad relationship to hold on and see if this is going to get better, you know?
Yeah. No, I think this is a good conversation, because I feel like most men out there, their objective is to find their soulmate. And I think that...
Deep, coming through with the soulmate.
I think that, like what you just said, there's so many women out there that I don't believe that there's just that one. Yeah. I think that you stumble upon one that you can adapt to, and as long as you can lay everything out on the line and you support each other, that's something that it's worth to tap into. But I think that, again, movies and this whole Hollywood romantic lifestyle keeps trying to create this false sense of what romantic is, what your soulmate is. And it goes back to the simple fact is that we are two humans that will never agree upon two topics. And we are so complex that we have different emotions, we have different ways of viewing things, we have different ways of reacting to certain things. So it goes back to just understanding who you are as a person and how you deal with certain things in your life, so that you can open yourself up and go, this is how I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think that the people that sort of hide themselves, and at the beginning of the relationship, the first 6 months is like the honeymoon stage, that you're always trying to impress, you're always trying to walk the fine line, you're always trying to be this person you've always wanted to be.
Not but after fart around them.
Yeah, you sort of create this world that is perfect, and then after the 6 months you become so comfortable that the reality starts to come out.
Yeah.
Meaning your true colors, your true personality. And I think we all are a victim to this. But instead of going those 6 months trying to create this false sense of a relationship, why not come out and say, hey, this is who I am, this is who I figured out I am, this is how I deal with certain things. I think you might as well sort of put it out in the blue and not waste the other person's time, not waste your time.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there definitely is that point where you're like on a first date. Fuck first dates. Hashtag.
Fuck first dates.
Because you're pretending completely. You'll freaking so.
Men are charmers, and we'll just
we'll say whatever. So how do you feel about whales? How do you feel? I try to save them too. You know, I'm with this group, the Blue Whale Foundation. You'll say whatever just to seem good, you know. And girls do it too. They you want to present yourself as the best possible version of yourself, and guys are usually doing it to try to sleep with a girl, but you just want to seem good. But I think it's like, this is the first 6 months of a relationship, and then you can't, 6 months come, fuck it.
Yeah, I'm tired of this.
Yeah, you're holding it all in, your gut falls out, and you're just, it is who I am. Do you still want to be with me? Well, I guess we've been here for 6 months, might as well keep going. It's like when you're going on a road trip, you're driving down the street and you can still see your house in the back, and you're like, I forgot the charger. You're like looking at your house, you're like, I've already gone too far, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. We're like, oh, I forgot my jacket. We've gone too far, man. You don't need it. And then you're fucking
Freezing.
2 days later on the road trip, just like shivering at night, like, why the fuck didn't I turn back? This relationship's horrible, you know? So the point we're trying to get across, take the time to really sit down with your lover and decide if you guys are really meant to be together, you know? Don't settle. Take some time. You know what? What we're trying to get across, date yourself. That doesn't mean be narcissistic, but really figure out who you are, and then you can bring the best possible version of yourself, realistically, to the table for someone else, you know? And then knowing that you put that hard work in developing yourself and all the great things that you bring to the table, you're going to be looking across the table, you know, if you're bringing a Thanksgiving dinner and you brought a fucking turkey and you brought some yams and you brought some stuffing and you put that down, and then you're seeing someone with a fucking Hot Pocket over there, you're like, Hot Pockets are nice, but I spent all this time making this feast and you're not even going to bring some cranberry sauce? You're not going to bring any pumpkin spice? You know? Some eggnog? You're not going to compliment this turkey I made? I'm sorry, I gotta take this in a Tupperware. I gotta take everything and I gotta go try to find something else. And then you come across someone who brought, is that a honey ham? That would go great with my turkey. Just a slice. Oh, you made bread? You made garlic bread? You made dessert? I didn't even think about that. Now you got a whole feast, you know?
Thanksgiving's around the corner.
That's some food for thought for people. Make sure you get enough of it. This is the Dos Leos podcast. M80roller.com.
Dos Leos. Peace out.
$5 coupon if you enter Dos Leos while checking out at M80roller.com.
Promo code.
EvanLopez.com. I'm going to be having my beat catalog going up on my website very shortly. I promise it's going to happen. It's not going to be like the love song shirts that I still haven't done. I'm sorry. The factory burnt down again. So I've had to start from scratch. Dos Leos podcast.
Dos Leos.
Let's just start saying that. Dos Leos.